We all use money pretty much every single day, right? But do we really understand the hidden rules that make it all work? Today, we're going to dive deep into how money really works and how this thing called credit can either build a fortune or cause a total collapse. Seriously, just think about it for a second. No coins, no bills, no credit cards. How would you get anything? You'd probably think, well, I'll just trade something for it. But you know what? That simple idea is actually a complete and total logistical nightmare. So before we had money, the world ran on this system called barter, which is just a direct trade of goods. And honestly, it was a nightmare, all because of one single incredibly frustrating problem. It's called the double coincidence of wants. It sounds kind of academic, but in real life, it's just impossible. Imagine you're a shoemaker and you need some wheat to make bread. You can't just go to any farmer. You have to find a farmer who not only has wheat, but who also just so happens to need a new pair of shoes right now in your exact size. It's absolute chaos. I mean, what a terrible way to live. You literally can't get what you need unless you find that one perfect person who wants exactly what you have. This creates a huge searching problem that makes even the simplest transactions incredibly difficult. You're just stuck. And this is where money becomes the hero of our story. It acts as an intermediate step, the ultimate go-between. The shoemaker can just sell their shoes to anyone for money and then take that money and buy wheat from any farmer. Problem solved. Easy. Okay, so money fixed the whole barter problem. Awesome. But the story does not end there. See, the money in your bank account, it operates on a secret mechanism that, frankly, most people have no idea about. It's all about what the banks are really doing with your cash. Most of us probably have this picture in our heads of our money sitting safely in a big steel vault at the bank, right? Just waiting for us. But what if I told you that's not what happens at all? In fact, something way more dynamic is going on behind the scenes. All right, here's the secret. In India, banks only keep about 5% of your deposits as actual cash on hand. Yeah, just 5%. So you have to be wondering, what happens to the rest? Well, that's where the real engine of the modern economy kicks in. So here's how the cycle works. We deposit our extra money, the bank holds on to that tiny fraction for daily withdrawals, and then it lends out the vast majority to other people who need loans. The bank charges those borrowers a higher interest rate than what it pays us, the depositors. And that gap, that little difference between the two rates, that's their main source of income. They're basically financial matchmakers, connecting people who have money with people who need it. Now, this lending activity is what we call credit. And let me tell you, credit is an incredibly powerful tool. It can be like a rocket ship, launching someone to success. But it can also be a devastating trap. Let's look at two stories that show both sides of this coin. First up, we have Salim, a shoe manufacturer. He gets a big order, so he uses credit to buy the raw materials he needs. He makes the shoes, delivers the order, repays the loan, and makes a nice profit. For him, the loan was a total rocket ship. But then there's Swapna, a farmer. She takes out a loan to pay for her crops, but then disaster strikes. Pests destroy her entire harvest. Suddenly, she can't repay the loan. The debt spirals out of control, and she ends up losing her land. It's the exact same financial tool, a loan, but with two completely opposite, life-changing outcomes. This quote from our source material really just sums up the danger perfectly. For Swapna, credit wasn't a helping hand. It was the thing that pushed her into an even deeper hole. It just highlights the immense risk involved when things go wrong. And this situation has a name. It's called a debt trap. It's this painful, vicious cycle where the interest just keeps piling up so fast that you can never actually pay down the original amount you borrowed. You might even have to take out new loans just to pay off the old ones, and you sink deeper and deeper. So, if credit can be so dangerous, how do we make sure it's a force for good? This brings us to our final challenge. How do we ensure that loans are fair, affordable, and accessible to everyone, not just a lucky few? Okay, so there are basically two main places to get credit. You've got the formal sector, that's your banks and cooperatives. They're supervised by the Reserve Bank of India, which keeps interest rates reasonable. Then you have the informal sector. Think moneylenders. There's no supervision. They can charge whatever crazy interest rates they want and use some really unfair ways to get their money back. It's kind of like the hero versus the villain of the lending world. But here's the kicker. Who is actually using these different sources? This data reveals a really shocking disparity. For poor urban households, more than half of their loans, 54%, come from those dangerous, informal sources. Meanwhile, for rich households, a massive 83% of their loans come from the safe, formal sector. So what gives? Why is this happening? Well, the main reason comes down to one word: collateral. Banks require you to have an asset, like a house or some land, as a guarantee that you'll pay back the loan. But most poor households simply don't have those assets, and that locks them out of the formal banking system. Thankfully, though, there is a powerful solution that's really changing the game. They're called self-help groups, or SHGs. Here's how it works. Small groups of people, often women, pool their savings together. The group itself can then get a loan from a bank, using their collective savings as the guarantee. It's a brilliant way to solve the collateral problem and give the poor access to cheap, formal credit. This whole powerful idea is summed up perfectly by Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus. He basically argues that giving people fair and affordable credit isn't just charity, it's the key to unlocking massive economic development from the ground up. And that leaves us with a final, really big question to think about. After everything we've seen today, from the nightmare of barter to the danger of the debt trap, could making simple, fair loans available to everyone be the single most effective way to help people build better lives for themselves? Something to think about.